Welcome to Go Vital. It's your host, Sarah, and as always, I'm so grateful to have you all here with me. Today's episode is a very personal one. I'm going to share with you a chapter of my life that I haven't fully dived into before. It's about my experience with gut health issues, which was challenging enough on its own, but it was compounded by the fact that I was also living in a very mentally and emotionally abusive relationship at the time. The two were so intertwined, my emotional health was taking a massive toll on my physical health, and it took me a long time to figure out how connected everything was. So buckle in, because this is going to be raw, real, and hopefully helpful if you're going through something similar. Let me take you back to that time. If you're new here, I have mentioned my ex in previous episodes. And to be honest, I have only scratched the surface of what life was like. It was a relationship that drained me emotionally and mentally. I was in this constant state of stress. And if you have ever been in an abusive relationship, you know that you're constantly walking on eggshells. It's exhausting. I was the primary carer for my daughter, but I was also the only one bringing any kind of income. My ex had stopped working completely, so we were living solely off the money I was making as a carer for my daughter. And here's where it gets more frustrating. He didn't even try to help. He wouldn't go out and look for a job. He wouldn't even do something as simple as going to the job center to sign up for unemployment benefits that could have given us a little extra financial support. His excuse? He couldn't speak English properly, so he convinced himself and tried to convince me that no one would hire him. It got to the point where he would even start crying if I pressed the issue. It was just another layer of manipulation. So there I was, trying to hold everything together, taking care of my daughter, managing the house, and trying to figure out ways to make some extra money on the side. On top of all that, I had to deal with these constant emotional outbursts. It felt like I had an extra child to take care of. He spent his days playing video games, and I had to make sure I wasn't making too much noise, because if my kids and I interrupted him, he would go mad. We couldn't laugh, couldn't have fun. It was like walking through a minefield every single day. It was suffocating. Around this time, something strange started happening. He decided to take control of cooking. And initially, I thought this was a good thing. After all, I had so much on my plate already, and it seemed like a small relief to have one less task to worry about. He treated it like this grand secret, like a surprise every time. No one was allowed in the kitchen while he cooked. It was this weird control thing, and looking back, I realized how unhealthy it was. But back then, I thought it was a relief. Then the gut issues started. I would eat and immediately feel terrible. Heartburn became a constant companion, and I found myself relying on Gaviscon. You know, those pink and white tablets that dissolve in your mouth and offer some relief. It got so bad that I was taking 3 or 4 after every meal just to get through the day. My stomach will be on fire, and it felt like no matter what I ate, I was in pain. At first, I thought maybe it was something in the food, so I asked him what ingredients he was using, thinking I could figure out what was triggering the heartburn. Big mistake. He didn't like that I was questioning him, but eventually He told me what he was putting in the food. I started suggesting to leave out certain spices or ingredients to see if things would improve. He said he did, but honestly, I couldn't tell if he was actually listening or not because things just kept getting worse. My gut was a wreck, and I didn't know what to do. I eventually went to the doctor and they ran all the tests, but nothing. They found nothing physically wrong with me, which only added to my frustration because I knew something wasn't right. It wasn't just heartburn anymore either. I started feeling dizzy all the time, my energy was so low, I couldn't figure out why. It was making my life unbearable. I couldn't focus on taking care of my daughter, and just getting through the day felt like climbing a mountain. I started eliminating things from my diet. First coffee, which I loved, then gluten, dairy, and sugar. I was doing everything I could think of to heal myself, but nothing worked. I started working out again, which had always been a source of strength for me, but even that was difficult because my ex constantly made me feel like I was wasting my time. He would make comments like, "You will never see results," or "What's the point of doing this?" It was incredibly demotivating, but deep down, I knew I had to keep moving, both physically and mentally. Even though I wasn't seeing any immediate results, it was more about reclaiming some control over my life. After trying everything and feeling exhausted, I finally turned to medication. The doctor put me on lansoprazole, which is meant to reduce stomach acid, and it worked for a while. But there was something deeply unsettling about the idea of being on medication for the rest of my life. I was in my early 30s, and the thought of relying on this pill just to function felt wrong. But at the time, I was so tired of trying and failing that I accepted it. I just needed to be able to take care for my kids and survive the day. Things with my ex continued to spiral until eventually our relationship, or whatever that was, ended, thankfully. Looking back, I realized that was the best thing that could have happened to my health, both physically and mentally. The first few days after the breakup were tough, of course, but something beautiful happened almost immediately. The house was quiet. There was this deep sense of peace that settled over everything. We could laugh again. We could play, make noise, be ourselves. The tension that had been suffocating us was gone, and it was like I could finally breathe again. That emotional relief alone helped my symptoms, but I was still on medication. I wasn't quite ready to go off it yet, but I knew I wanted to. I began researching lansoprazole, and what I found really shook me. There were long-term side effects like increased risk of dementia and other mental illnesses. That's when I decided, no, this can't be my only solution. I had to find a way to heal naturally. With no one controlling what I could or couldn't do in the kitchen, I started experimenting with food again. I kept a food journal, tracking how I felt after each meal. I still avoided gluten, dairy, and sugar because I knew those didn't sit well with me. But here's the thing, all those spices and ingredients that my ex had been using, the ones I thought were making me sick, I started cooking with them again. Paprika, ginger, curry, you name it. And I was fine. In fact, I was better than fine. I was healing. My son even suggested something that made me think. He suggested that maybe my ex was putting something in my food to make me sick. Now, I don't know for sure if that's true, but it's hard to explain why I was the only one in the house feeling that way, especially when everyone was eating the same meals. Either way, I'm just grateful that I'm healthy now and in control of my life. Looking back, I realize how much I have grown since then. I now take probiotics every morning to support my gut, and I have healed to the point where I can enjoy almost any kind of food again, except for gluten, sugar, and dairy, which I still avoid because my body just doesn't tolerate them well. But I can eat spices again and I can cook without fear. I love food and I love cooking, so regaining that freedom has been amazing. And yes, I even bake healthy snacks that taste incredible. I also learned a lot about mental health during this time. I used to beat myself up for failing into an abusive relationship, thinking, how could I have been so stupid? I'm an intelligent person. How did I let this happen? But now I know that it wasn't about intelligence. It was about a lack of self love and self esteem. I felt alone, and that made me the perfect target for someone like him. When we are mentally unhealthy, we are vulnerable, and that's why it's so important to prioritize your own mental well being. I recently took an intolerance test, and it was eye opening. It helped me confirm the foods my body doesn't like, and now that I have that knowledge, I feel even more empowered to take care of myself. I highly recommend doing one if you're dealing with chronic gut issues. Sometimes it's the smallest things that make the biggest difference. If you're going through something similar, whether it's gut issues, stress, or feeling trapped in an unhealthy relationship, I want you to know that you can heal. You are stronger than you think. And once you start prioritizing yourself, you will see how much your body responds. The mind and gut are connected, and when you take care of both, you can transform your life. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I hope my story helps you on your own healing journey. And remember, your health, both physical and mental, is worth fighting for. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep glowing. Don't forget to subscribe on Spotify and follow us on Instagram and Facebook for more updates, behind the scenes content. Take care and keep